We've got Michael Landsberg, Chief Investment Officer of Landsberg Bennett Private Wealth Management. And you were listening to what he said, Michael, and looking at your notes. If the Fed does not continue, then all bets are off with what he just said about not fighting the Fed. And your viewpoint is that the next inflation rate could be 3.15, which would make this, theoretically, could make it a one and done. And then you're not fighting the Fed. So are you uncomfortable in the market like he is? He said he was very uncomfortable in the market.
I would be in certain parts. I think I agree with what a lot of David said. I think we're in a similar situation where we were a year ago, which is kind of shocking. We had 4 rate cuts last year. 2-year Treasury was at 3.5. It went to 4.4. Stocks ripped in the back half of the year as inflation went higher. To me, I don't see a huge difference between where we are now. 2-year Treasury is right around 3.5%. It moved to 4.4. I think you could see it move higher. I do think inflation's going higher. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think inflation going higher when economic growth is there. I think one of the issues I've always had has been recently, the valuation game hasn't worked. I get what David's saying, things are expensive. But if I looked at NVIDIA and Broadcom 3 years ago, everybody thought you were crazy to buy those because the valuations were crazy. Mm-hmm. Well, they've certainly grown into the valuations because at the end of the day, the earnings have really been there.
Yeah. If you ever have invested money for people, one thing you learn is that when stocks are hitting highs, a lot of times they hit more new highs. And when stocks are hitting lows, unfortunately, they tend to, they can go all the way to zero. You marry your losers, my wife says that, but you marry your losers and you sell your winners.
Too early.
No one ever went broke taking a profit of like 15%, and then next thing you know.
No one gets rich taking the profit.
So it sounds like you could be long equities and short bonds, is what you're thinking.
You could be.
Or at least not long bonds.
Yeah, and typically, when we look, we have a lower bond allocation. We've actually added alternatives, the golds of the world, to have that kind of balance from just having all stocks. But I think you could really own stocks here. My concern always is diversification. Dave talked about international. He's in China. I look at lower rates as small caps really underowned. Everybody on Wall Street, it's consensus bearish. When I look at what's going on, the futures are short S&P. They're really short the Russell, and the Russell's probably lower rates is going to be probably the best thing for small caps. So I think people could look at diversifying some of their Mag 7 exposure to small caps because the Mag 7 is so concentrated.
Do you like talking about individual names, or you just would rather talk about?
I like talking individual names.
So what do you think if someone had some cash today?
Again, clients have cash today, and a lot of times if they've got overexposure to the Mag 7, which we're going to probably assume is the case,
right.
And we find things that are going to grow. There's about 25 or 30 names in the last 6 or 7 quarters that have outperformed the Mag 7 that aren't Mag 7 names. So one of the names I like is Axon. They make body cams and they make tasers. Those are businesses that aren't going to go away anytime soon. Mm-hmm. We sell them everywhere. Anytime you see anybody now that's arrested, you'll notice the top right-hand corner of the video is Axon. They have a huge market there. They're growing, 30% type growth. I think that's a good name people can own, not a tech name per se.
Don't tase me, bro. We used to have a video of that. So you can have a body cam filming someone getting tased.
Yeah. But let's say they don't tase it, just a body cam. If somebody arrested you, Joe, pulled you over, you got a body cam.
Right. You're not particularly, maybe you like AI, but you think at this point it's overdone?
I like AI. I think the problem is too many people own too few names in AI. That's really the issue I have is you're only owning chips. I think if you're going to own AI, you got to go out and look and say, hey, can I own data centers? Can I own cooling systems, the HVAC companies? Can I own some of the other names that are out there? The data center construction, energy. I think that's the issue I have is AI is a great theme. It's probably the big theme that we're going to see over the next 3 to 5 years. But if you only own a couple chip names, I think you've got a lot more risk than you think. Diversification is important. Mm-hmm. Again, it's a great theme, but you got to have more than just 1 or 2 names.